Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me, Vulcan. Today I'm playing a 2 versus 2 on Straight to the Point, and I'm going to be joined by Val in this one, someone who may be familiar to those who watch the channel. And we're going to be playing against Zakos222, who I think I've also played against before in a replay on my channel, and Koalab. Now they are a second lieutenant and a captain, which is pretty crazy. But either way, we're going to be using a Scandinavian Cat C deck today, and that's because I'm fulfilling a request to play a Cat C Minor Nations deck, which kind of puts me at a huge disadvantage from the get-go, but I went through them all and I decided that the Scandinavians were probably the best one, so that's what I went with. So Scandinavian Cat C is for me, and for Val, he's playing a French motorized deck, something that also puts him at quite a disadvantage. The French on their own aren't great. Obviously, he doesn't have the same restriction to the age of his units as I do, because I'm limited to units that are older than 1980s, and he gets access to all the French units, like the relents and so on. So that's okay. So I am going to be backed up by a reasonably good deck as I'm throwing reserve infantry at the enemy. Now, on this particular map, we did decide that I would go to Charlie and Val would go to Delta, and then we would both hit Echo together if Val managed to secure the other side of the river here. And at the start of the game, I was going to be tasked with making sure that they couldn't push through to Charlie, and therefore I was going to be defending these two little bits of forest here and the town, of course, just so that no pushes came across the open fields. Now, the reason we chose Echo was because both our decks are very infantry focused, and therefore pushing up the fields here towards Foxtrot and this tree line is just such a bad idea. So we wanted to avoid that completely. I don't really have any helicopters, so I can't do any crazy flanks around the edge of the map, so it's pretty much going to be all focused on Echo. Now, that's the great thing about this map. I really like the detail in this map. It's such an awesome map to look at. It's beautiful, and it's got so many strategic opportunities. Like, you could throw massive helicopter flanks right around the edge of this map. This is the small version, so you have all of the command points in the middle rather than having an extra couple on the side, which does increase the chance you are going to get flanked. But in this one, we're going to be focused very much on the middle. And as the game has started, let me have a quick look at what I've brought in for you. We do have the TGB M42s. All of these have reserve infantry in, the Hembarnsmen. And then I have NM45s. These are little trucks with 20mm autocannons on the back, used for anti-helicopter support, and also they can provide ground support as well with those autocannons, because the range on them is actually pretty good. The 1,575 meters makes them pretty decent for engaging infantry squads at longer range. We've got the M2 Jupiters there with the Jaegers in them. I have an M621, and that has some Marine Jaegers, which are the sniper squad. Then I have a couple of NM113s, and these have Stormers, so pretty interesting start for me. Just a lot of infantry really, and some rather bad AA. Val's Celtics already doing good work on Zakos's helicopters with the VLRA Mistrals coming up and the VBL Mistral. You can see both the Mi-8s also get shot down, so a massive loss of forces there for Zakos early on, and he could not secure the far side of Echo. So what that allows is Val to get his VABs across and dump his chasseurs into the town. MiG-23 ML gets shot down, and so does the MiG-25 RBF after it lands a bombing strike on the chasseurs that was swiftly dodged by Val. The Zanista not going to be able to get close enough to the town to take it over with those napalm rounds, and with the AMX-30 B2 Brennises there, that's going to finish them off. Now over on my side, this Ka-50 Akula going to be harassing my forces with the help of the Ka-52 with the exceptional recon, using a couple of missiles to take out these MD Jupiters, but I've already dropped out the Jaegers, so they're going to be travelling to the left side here to provide some recon, and those elite infantry squads going to be really helpful. Now, as I send a couple of APCs across this bridge, I figure out that there is 2 T-80s there, so I'm going to have to be really careful about that. My Marine Jaeger squad was dropped out of its truck before that got hit, so lucky for them, they are still alive. Basically, all my APCs are going to get spotted by the exceptional recon pretty early on, and unfortunately, due to some missed micro from my end, you can see a couple of squads of infantry there getting taken out for free. And that's because when I was trying to bring in my forces, I was placing them over here, and it was trying to make them fast move across this bridge, which isn't good if there's a couple of T-80s in this tree line. So what I had to do from now on is make all my units rally here and then push them across this bridge manually, and that's what I do from now on. So although I lost a few units for free, I'm basically trying to avoid it from now on. Val's kind of making the same mistake, but I attempt to remind him before any of his units get destroyed. Unfortunately, all these VABT 2013s do get hit pretty hard by the T-80s there, and he loses all of the APCs, but not all the squads. Chasseurs managing to stay alive with about 2 or 3 men each. So with Val's foothold with the Chasseurs 85 on this side of Echo, what it's going to allow me to do is push across with my major units. See, I'm bringing in a couple of F-100Ds there. They are supreme rocket aircraft. They come in with those massive rocket pods. You could see just how many rockets they fired off in such a short period of time. And what that did was just panic the T-80s and force them to retreat them. I was hoping I'd hit a bit more than just the T-80s, but that's all that was there in the end. So finally, with Val's foothold here, I'm bringing up my own infantry. I've got some amphibians, and these are bringing up the Stormpion Jaegers, or Yaras, sorry. I'm going to have some real trouble pronouncing these names. We also have the Norlands Jaeger. That's a pretty easy one, I guess. Now, the brilliant thing about this Cat C deck is, although it is Cat C, you get things like the Norlands Jaegers and the Kush Jaegers. You also get the Recon Jaegers, and you get the Stormpion Yaras as well, which are 10-point flame squads, which are really strong. So, all in all, this deck isn't actually that bad. I'm also bringing up some NM113s with the Stormers as well. So you also get Stormers, which is a pretty big deal. And these combination of forces is just sort of perfect for pushing through a forest like this. Having the napalm infantry there to back up your regular infantry is actually really good. The F-100s coming in again, and they are going to be taking out a couple units of infantry on the ground here. Unfortunately, one of them gets shot down by the MiG-23 ML, but the other one gets away. Sorry, I'm missing those rocket strikes. They are pretty awesome to watch. It's just that those aircraft move so fast. Now, what you can see me doing with the amphibious APCs here is just sort of placing them across the water to spot for any flanking helicopter units. Over on the right side here, you can see I've spread out the TGB M42s to prevent any flanks into Charlie, and I'm also bringing up a few NM45s to do the same, just like stop any helicopter attacks. I've got them spread around the home sector to protect the command unit there. And it's pretty futile for the red side to attack down this way as well, which is why they aren't going to. I've just got the reserve infantry here though, in case they do, and they provide, you know, a decent resistance if I'm attacked. So now you can see my napalm infantry coming into play alongside the reserve infantry. They're going to help kill off a unit of Straussy. Unfortunately, this Mi-25 does land a nice rocket directly into the middle of one of my squads, which isn't helpful. But I'm continuing to move up my units and pick off any APCs that are accidentally microed into the middle of my forces. Val's AMX-10RC slowly moving up the left side along with the AMX-30 Brennus, but that's taken out by the Conquer's squads in Hotel. And now what I'm pretty much trying to do is get the jump on the enemy by forcing forwards my infantry as far as they can get them. So Val's sort of giving me the support with the armored units, but unfortunately they are going to get taken out by the helicopters. Not really much my Stormers can do about that, especially when they're getting hit by the minigun of the Mi-25. Ka-52 is going to come across and help the Ka-50 Akula get a kill, but the Mistral is going to take down one of those helicopters, and now they can focus on the KAs as well. Unfortunately, neither hit. And we're very reliant on these sort of infrared AA units in order to take down enemy aircraft as we're pushing through the forest. But Zakos making good use of Zenista. These are pretty much the exact same thing as my Storm Pioneers, and therefore when they come up against each other, the battles last forever, because what happens is the napalm actually causes smoke, and the smoke blocks the line of sight onto the units, and therefore the units don't actually get many kills very quickly, because what happens is they retreat behind the smoke because they want to get out the napalm, and then they stop firing at each other, and then once the napalm goes away they fire again at each other. It's kind of a weird thing. Anyway, you can see here the Zenista. I'm trying to get these Norland Jaegers to move behind them whilst the Storm Pioneers get them from in front, but mine are unfortunately panicked, so they don't really get any napalm shots off onto the enemy Zenista. It's really all the damage that's been done so far is down to my Norland Jaeger. So you can see I'm trying to sneak these Stormer squads forwards to take out some of this artillery, the Nonas and the Buratinos there. And if I actually put this into my point of view, you can see that we don't really know much about what's going on at the moment. Our infantry is kind of getting destroyed from our perspective. All we're doing is bumping into numerous squads of Zenista, and that's becoming quite a problem. Now we also have Spetsnaz to deal with. So what I'm going to have to do is use my Norlandsjäger and the Kustjäger in order to take those out, although any infantry against Spetsnaz in forest isn't going to do very well. So what I'm going to have to do is invest in a lot more flame infantry, and that's what you can see here coming up in these APCs. We've also got more Stormers coming up, more reserves. Those reserves are going to be really useful for bulking out my infantry and providing some targets for the enemy infantry to destroy, whilst I hit them with the more elite squads if they aren't micromanaged. See, I had to split up the Kustjägers there to avoid both those squads being taken out at the same time. But now I'm attacking the Spetsnaz from two directions. You can see that the Norlandsjägers getting some really good shots off onto the Spetsnaz, because the Spetsnaz are focusing their napalm rockets onto the Kustjäger, not the Norlandsjäger. As soon as they turn their attention to the Norlandsjäger, you can see they get absolutely ripped to shreds, and that's because of some micromanagement from Zakos. So some really good job there by him. But we are just continually flooding this side. My reserve infantry finally coming up. They have squads of 15, and they also have a machine gun, 10 points each. Really good squads to bulk up your front lines. So the idea is that they will attack the Zenista. They'll take ages to be killed, and then what we can do is bring up our own flame units as well as some regular infantry or shock infantry and hit them back really hard. You can see that we're also moving our APCs forwards. It's very important that when you use infantry in forest that you try and keep them supported by APCs as much as possible. Because this is conquest and not destruction, you can get away with losing pretty much every APC as long as your infantry stays alive. And That's just because what it does is it forces the infantry you're attacking to attack the APCs instead of your infantry with the rocket, so they're not using their machine gun on your infantry. Also, the other good thing, particularly in this situation, is that they are using a lot of napalm infantry. So what's happening is any APCs that come up against napalm infantry aren't going to get killed very quickly, which allows the APCs to kill off napalm infantry more effectively than even the infantry themselves. So another bombing strike coming in there. That starts to become a bit of a trend. We got an Su-24M coming in. The Mistral's moving to the edge of this tree line here, going to be trying to take out the Ka-50. Su-24M is going to come in and get a successful bombing strike, but didn't really hit much in particular. Stormers getting some great shots onto these Spetsnaz as they focus onto the Mistral squad there. And that's one thing that you can do. If you catch a Spetsnaz squad focusing on multiple targets at the same time, it allows them to be killed really quickly. But the trouble comes when the Spetsnaz squads can take out your squads one by one. See, I bring in a couple of fighting falcons there. Unfortunately, one does get shot down. One of the bombs actually lands directly on the Spetsnaz squads, which is good. So I managed to take out a couple of Spetsnaz squads for the price of one of my own Stormer squads, which is a good trade in my case. Now I have my Stormers on this left side, trying to use their Gustav M2s to attack the T-72BU. Now this thing's a beast, 180 point tank. I think it's probably one of the most expensive tanks in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously you have the Command T-80 as well, that's like 200, but not counting that, I think it's the most expensive tank you can get in the tank tab. But with that T-72 moving back and retreating, I do push forwards my Stormer. The F-100D there comes in for a rocket strike, and you saw that hit really hard, but unfortunately got shot down by some enemy anti-air in Hotel. Now we do currently have the lead in this game, 57 points to the 1 of the enemy, because we captured our sectors faster. But as long as we keep a foothold on this mountain range here, what it means is we can pretty much never lose the game, because if they stop putting resources into defending this mountain range, then we will break through, no doubt. So basically their choices are, they either keep attacking us here and stop us from completely swarming them on the left side at Hotel and maybe into Foxtrot as well, or what they can do is forget about that, forget Hotel, just leave it completely and focus on like Charlie or something, come around for a helicopter flank, or maybe go around to Delta as well. But the ideal thing to do in this situation is hope that your infantry is better than the enemy's, but because I'm using a Cat C deck, I do have a lot of availability, and the Hembarnsmen, you can see, just don't die very quickly at all. They come with those Mauser rifles and the KG M37, and they just tear apart enemy regular infantry, whilst the napalm infantry can target the Motor Streltsy. So I'm doing pretty well here. Unfortunately, a bombing strike comes in and does take out a couple of my Storm Pioneers. It also kills off the enemy Motor Streltsy though, so that's good. And the Hembarnsmen there are going to destroy a couple of APCs. These Hembarnsmen approaching onto the Motor Streltsy here. More bombing strikes coming in with the Su-24M. And they are starting to do a lot of damage, but I am again bringing out more reinforcements. Now that's the other thing that's great about this deck. Old units, like Cat C units, don't cost much in terms of reinforcement points, so I can just continuously reinforce my front line whilst they are using Zanista and Spetsnaz, which are actually, I think, a little bit less cost effective than Storm Pioneers and the reserve infantry, of course, like the Henvansmen. So they are at a bit of a predicament at the moment. See my Stormer squad here. They did sneak round to the backside of the hotel. It managed to basically hold up the enemy on the road there by forcing them to napalm themselves. But my NM113s moving down from the mountain actually took out the enemy command infantry. So we managed to break their capture on hotel, which is a massive mistake on their part. I'm not sure why they had the command infantry so close to where my units were. It probably would have been more beneficial for them to move it back, even if it meant decapping the sector. But that puts us as a +1 lead again, and now they are going to be forced to bring another command unit into hotel. And that's going to take time. So we are currently building our lead even more. My Henvansmen still causing quite a big issue, as you can see. Still all over these mountains. Another thing they throw against me at the moment is just being annihilated by the attrition. Su-24M coming in again is going to land some nice bombs onto my units, destroys one Stormer squad and severely damages my Storm Pioneers. Second bombing strike there wasn't as good. It's Mi-25S24 trying to land some shots onto these amphibious vehicles, but the only reason they are moving out to sea at the moment is because they want to be used as recon. So now the TO-55 coming into play as my Henvansmen come down in the open on the side of these mountains. They are going to be able to be flamed. So that happens and I do lose those squads. But the reinforcements are here. We are going to be moving up again very shortly with another huge push. And because of all the bombing strikes that have been occurring throughout the game, we have got a ton of RBS-67 Hawks coming up now. Now these things cost 40 points each and they have 9 HE power and 40% accuracy, which isn't great. But with such numbers, they are extremely powerful and you're pretty much certain to take out enemy aircraft. So Val's dropped off a few Commando Marines in the backside of Gulf, as you can see. And that was with a really nice helicopter flank. He is going to come up against some Zanista, but the Commando Marines, they are elite infantry and they are 15-man squads. Very, very powerful. Not really much chance that those Zanista are going to stand up to them. The red side finally captured back Hotel, but as you can see, we've now decapped Gulf. The UAZ is making a run for it, which is only securing our lead a little more. Even if he doesn't actually destroy the command unit, as long as he makes it move around, it basically just extends our lead. And I'm still pushing through here with more Storm Pioneers and the Henvansmen and so on. Pretty much all my units are at the moment. It's just Henvansmen and Storm Pioneers, and the idea is that the Henvansmen will occupy the enemy infantry whilst my napalm can just freely fire away. I did have a couple of F-16A Block 5s on the right side here. That's what you just saw got shot down, and the reason I had them out so wide was to take care of the enemy bombing strikes once they came in. And I was hovering them around this island, but unfortunately what happened was they came in with a couple of MiG-23 MLs and the Su-27S, and unfortunately the F-16s aren't very good at dealing with those. Like, that's just outclassing them completely. Either way, what that has meant is that they've now invested a lot of points into their aircraft, and I've got a huge push coming through with these Henvansmen and the Storm Pioneers. Val managed to save one of his Commando Marine units, so that can be used for another surprise attack again soon enough. But the Su-22M4P coming in, that's going to hit one of my RBS-67 Hawks. But as you can see, all these RBS 67s firing at the same time is going to mean that that gets shot down, although Val's Mistrals got the kill. A Spetsnaz Gru squad trying to sneak across the bridge here. Not going to particularly get very far once it bumps into my Hembarnsmen there. These Hembarnsmen were dropped out of their APCs in order to deal with the Spetsnaz Gru. The two T-80s here using up a lot of shells to take out these two squads. Those Hembarnsman squads were told to follow the Spetsnaz squads. So that's what they're doing at the moment, if you're wondering. Because I'm probably busy micromanaging at this point the infantry pushing across the mountain. So you can see on the left side, enemy helicopters would be spotted by my vehicles here. Whilst on the right side, I've just got it defended with anti-air. You saw the enemy recon unit there. That is a bit of an issue. MiG-25 coming in though to bomb our base and doesn't really hit anything and just gets itself shot down. So that works out for us. Granzette pushing into my Hembarnsmen. Luckily they have the miniman and eventually they will take that out with the help of the Jaegers, who I move forward just for that purpose. Now we've got a lot of aircraft coming in. MiG-27M going to get hit hard by my RBS 67 Hawks. We've also got the two Su-24Ms, which are going for a bombing strike into Echo. Both of those Su-24Ms do go down to my overwhelming amount of Hawk missiles. Also the Mirage 2000Cs here of Val coming in to help out. And they completely missed my command tank, so that worked out for me. Now spotting this Mi-8T coming over on the left side, you saw me bring up these Veeks. Unfortunately they didn't get there in time to stop the Mi-8T from actually dropping off its infantry. So I am going to have to deal with that, and you can see me bringing in some forces to block the way. My push is now coming down the mountain slightly. Some Hembarnsmen engaging some Spetsnaz in the open. Not the best idea. T-80s being moved across the river is going to mean that they get ambushed by my Hembarnsmen and Val's Chasseur 85s. The enemy Mi-8T behind us is going to be engaged by my NM45s. I did bring in an F-16 as well to help shoot it down. The Mi-8 going to die there. And now we have some infantry coming up to defend the left side of Delta. Now this was pretty much the only weak point we had in terms of where we could be flanked, and they took advantage of that really nicely. An IL-102 coming in. That's going to be going for a bombing strike onto the edge of Delta here to try and snipe our command vehicle. Now we also have a push coming in from Foxtrot towards Echo. Now luckily for me, I am using the Hembarnsmen of course, so they are going to take a long while to attack, and with 4 minutes left on the game, that is what's forcing the enemy now to push onto us. We've decapped Hotel, and with my Storm Pioneers coming down the hill, I'm taking care of these Motor Streltsy pretty easily as well. And once they get backed up by the Hembarnsmen, the Motor Streltsy not going to last very long at all, just due to sheer numbers. The push down the center here, you can see, is just futile. All the APCs getting taken out really quickly, and the Spetsnaz in the open, although they have the napalm rockets, just aren't going to do very well. Val coming in with some Mirage SF bombs in order to help out, but didn't really hit much. My Hembarnsmen and Jaegers already had it under control. Now just to prevent any extra push there, we have the beacons at the backside being used to RT this forest, and that's going to stop any extra units from pushing at the same time. Basically what it does is it leaves other units panicked. And I've got infantry all over Hotel now. Val's got these 4 Chasseur 85 squads. I've got 4 Hensvarnmen there. And we also have the Storm Pioneers at the back side of the sector. We're all over Hotel. We're currently winning by 100 points to 1. CF 104s coming in now. These are napalm bombers. Basically created a wall of flame here to stop the small attack that was coming round my units. Basically, because we'd moved all our forces up to Hotel, what happened was it allowed them to get some infantry into the side of this forest here. Fortunately, we still have some defensive troops, so that worked out okay. My F-16A Fighting Falcon here taking on an Su-22 M4P, but unfortunately gets hit by some anti-air. And now my command tank has been found by a Mi-25 S-24. And now it's up to my NM-45 to save the day. Fortunately, we shoot it down. So I'm going to have to move my command tank now just to avoid that being destroyed by any artillery. You can already see the Smerch barrage coming in. I must avoid that at all costs. I've revealed an enemy T-80 UK at the back of Hotel. They are already capping that, so that's not actually capturing the sector at the moment. But what it's doing is it's driving straight toward Val's chasseurs here. You can see I managed to actually avoid the Smerch barrage and move my tank forward, so that's okay. We still have control of Echo, and we can hold on to our lead. Now, with only 1 minute to go on the clock, they're pretty desperate to make something happen at this point, but there isn't really much they can do. Their push towards Echo failed from Foxtrot. Their push across here towards Echo also failed. That's been countered by a lot of chasseurs from Val. And I'm still harassing them in the backside of the Hotel. I've even managed to get my Hensvarnsmen up after Val got some chasseurs into the compound here. And now that gives us such a good foothold on this sector in order to keep pressing infantry in from the mountain, because they're going to have to deal with these units before the ones on the mountain, because these pose more of a threat in the town. Some IL-102s coming in for some desperate attempts to hit my command unit. I'm brought in an air display. The idea was that the Vulcan miniguns on these aircraft would be used to take down the other aircraft, but just as I'm pushing in my bombers to make more napalm strikes, we win the game. And there you have it. A victory in 30 minutes, came down to the time limit, and it was an interesting game. As you can see, Val kind of carried me through this one with his French motorized deck. Chasseur is probably doing a lot more damage than my Hensvarnsmen at the end of the day, but it was definitely a really good fight. It was kind of very attritional, and there's something that you often don't see as much anymore because of the amount of huge bombers on the game. So, for instance, if you were playing as Rev 4 and you tried to go for an attritional war, you'd probably just get bombed out by Nighthawks or F-11Cs. But if you go for the attritional war from the NATO side or Blue 4 side, often what you'll see happening is the Red 4 side will actually try and counter that with their own infantry rather than their own bombers. Obviously, throughout the game they had a lot of bombers, but eventually we shot down those 2 Su-24Ms, and that really stopped them from taking out a significant amount of infantry on the mountain, which then gave us the ground in order to capture, or at least contest, Hotel. Now the Jaegers here, you can see got a few kills. Pretty much 1-for-1 most of the time though. Norland Jaegers, Hensvarnsmen, you know, they're just killing APCs as well. That's not even good kills. But my kill death negative 1,952 to 2,340, but I think what really won us this game was just the way in which we played it as a team. pushing through with that much infantry is really, really hard to ignore from the enemy side. So if they didn't counter that, then they would lose the game. But if they tried to ignore it, then they would also lose the game. So yeah, it was a hard decision, especially if they didn't have the right units to counter it. And especially, like I say, after they lost the bombers, it was pretty much game over. But there we have it, guys. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one. Some more Wargame content. Please do actually send me your own replays. I have had the request previously to accept replays from other people, but I am now going to have a look at them and try and get some more gameplay on the channel, because I don't actually play Wargame too often myself anymore, which means that content is hard to come by, and I really like commentating Wargame. I've just kind of gone off playing it. So yeah, if you send me your own replays, I'll have a look at them, and if they're good enough, then I will probably commentate on them and I'll credit you in the video and so on. So anyway, yeah, that's it for now, guys. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.